Where's my chat at? Where are you guys at? Do we have sound? Can you hear me? What's up? Do a quick sound check. All right, looks like we have sound. What's up, everyone? How you living, wrestling fans? How's the new year treating you? Do you feel like you're settled in to the new wrestling year? Have you recalibrated your expectations after the first full week of programming? After some genuine build towards the Royal Rumble? We are officially on the road to WrestleMania, which means it's going to be prediction time, which means it's going to be rumor season. And regretfully enough, it's going to be return season. Returns aren't always a bad thing, but the speculation about them, the rumors about them, they can get a little old. All that's coming to us seemingly in the very, very near future. And so we're going to all have to brace ourselves for it. What do you guys think of Raw last night? Interesting episode. Interesting episode of Raw last night. Wasn't as bad as it was the week before. I thought the week before we got just a dog water awful edition of Raw. I thought last night's was actually fairly good. We had a good main event. Had an interesting CM Punk Prince Devitt program that I didn't necessarily see coming, and we're going to have about a 1 week build to, which seems absolutely appropriate. We had AJ and Gunther having their first encounter, being stopped short by a phantom tap, and that match ending in controversy. I got to say, it's been pointed out other times today, but come on, AJ. You're supposed to be the grizzled veteran. You're supposed to be the one who has done it all and seen it all. And you didn't wait for the bell? Have we learned nothing in WWE canon about how important the freaking bell ringer is? Bret Hart might still be the champ if it wasn't for the freaking bell ringer. That's what determines everything in WWE. And for AJ Styles not to respect the sanctity of the bell ringer lets you know just why exactly he was an outsider for all those years. You know what, real quick, really quick, being that there's so many on watching right now, I almost forgot to bring on a special guest I have with me today. Oh, there's me talking again and again and again in like a parallel universe over here. Let me mute myself visually real quick and let me bring on our new producer. Look at that, I went away. Hey, you're late for your segment. Come on. Get over here. Everyone paid to see you. And well, as you can tell, I got my new producer Shaggy back there. He's manning the switchboard, screening calls, feeding me all my good takes. He's doing it all. He's filtering your guys' chat. He's moderating this very, very active chat that we have going right now. He's taking care of all of that business. So shout out to producer Shaggy back there. He hasn't said a lot ever, but that's what we like. That's how we like our workforce around here. Nice and compliant, just like the WWE's workforce. Speaking of that workforce within WWE, there's been a lot of discourse lately, and for good reason, about how old the roster is. Like there was a time when WWE seemed like they completely relied on part-timers to fill out all of their programming, and these part-timers tended to be significantly older than the regular roster. There were people that had already made their bones. We don't necessarily have that exact situation now. You have some guys that come and go, and they do tend to be on a little bit of the seasoned side. But overall, I would say that we don't have as much of the curse of the part-timers coming in and controlling all of the programming as we did a few years ago. With that said, there's very legitimate discourse as to the age of the WWE roster. In particular, because I don't want to be in trouble with anyone, we are going to break down the WWE men's roster and only the men's roster for purposes of this conversation. We're going to tier rank every member of the roster that is over the age currently, as of January 13th, 2026, over the age of 40. Now, some of this is going to feel a little unfair because a lot of these guys just turned 40 in the last couple of months. Doesn't change the fact that they're 40. I just want to point that out, that not everyone on this list is like deep into their fourth decade and can see that 50 just around the corner. And before you get in the comment section, before you rile up the chat calling me ageist or anything, look, I'm as bald as humanly possible, okay? No matter what smoke and mirrors I try to put out there, nothing can ever change that. So I am just as old as the people I'm about to make fun of. Gives me license to do it, right? Now, in order to do this, I feel like I should have a nice platform. In order to organize stuff, I got to organize stuff. I got to categorize stuff. I got to tier stuff up. So let me go to my trusty tier maker. And what you can see here in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen is every member of the male roster active that is over the age of 40. Now, not too bad. On a stretched out tier maker, we got almost 2 full rows. We're going to rank them. We're going to tier them up and talk about their current value to WWE. Now, initially, I planned on having some really creative titles for these tiers. Turns out my titles were too long, too creative. I know how you feel now, Tony Khan. So I just have S through D. But fear not. I can produce you what I originally wanted these tiers to be called, and we'll use this as our guide. Let me pull that up for you in just 1 second. Maybe if I can go on mute. There's no way I'm going to forget to unmute myself, right? Oh, great. I was muted that whole time. Okay. As you can see on the screen, sorry about that. As you can see on the screen, these are kind of As you can see on the screen, this is the guide for our tiers. Now, for an S tier wrestler, I'm going to say they are in their wrestling prime. They're in their prime money-making years, according to every old-timer wrestler on a podcast and actually history. The thing about wrestlers in this tier, everything's all good as long as you don't Google their age. Now, if you're in A tier, and A tier is never anything to sneeze at, we're going to say that you're an A tier because you are accentuating the positives and hiding the negatives. I think a wise man once talked about that. AKA smoke and mirrors. Nothing wrong by smoke and mirrors. That's how I'm doing this stream. If you're in the B tier, that means you still got it. When people chant, you still got it, it's actually kind of a condescending chant. It means like, we know you're old. We can see that you're visually old, but there's still impressive things that you can do. So I'm going to say you still got it in small doses. For our C tier, we're going to say that you're a respected gatekeeper. You are here to take pins and cash checks. Again, not a bad life. There's a member of the roster I realize I don't have on here now that I've thought of that, because I think he's not quite listed on WWE.com yet, but he will be part of this. And if you are a D tier wrestler on this list, I'm going to say he's still with the company, ? And also, don't answer your phone. Also, don't look at the typo I have there for phone. And I have a way of covering that up. Watch. I'm going to put that right there. Look at that. It's like magic. Boom. Nope. Not quite. There we go. Let's get Rob right down here. All right. Now we're cooking with gas. Now we're doing good. And you don't see my typo. Okay, let me add the one wrestler that I just snapped was not on this list. Let me add him to this list really, really quick, and then we will get started. So go ahead and pop your beer, your champagne, or whatever it is you're drinking. Let me upload this one last wrestler, and then we'll be good to go. I don't have to be on mute while I'm doing it. I could just talk nonsense. It just, isn't great content or isn't great stream. Speaking of not great content, what do you guys think of Braun Breaker last night? I thought this segment was really interesting, where he like faux attacked Adam Pearce. My only issue with it broadly was just that they're kind of doing like what I feel like is Stone Cold Braun Breaker. And as a result, they're just kind of making him look really, really cool. And again, that might be their ultimate goal. I can't figure out if they actually want heat for him or they just want to make him what his nickname is. If they just want to make him the ultimate badass. I can't really figure that out. That's annoying. All right. You ever get your search engine messed up on your default, which means your computer probably has like some kind of virus? You ever been down that road before? It's not fun. So this superstar is on SmackDown. And looks like is not on WWE.com yet. Has not been updated. That is why I had not factored this person in, because they are not listed on WWE.com as an official roster member. But I will have a way of denoting this person. All right. We got that there. We are good there. Why don't you stop over there? Thank you very much. Okay. All right. one more thing to pull up as I continue to stall on time here. Oh, thank God, like nobody's watching. That's helpful. I had to pull up my little cheat sheet with some of these guys' ages. Perfect. Okay. Shoot. One more thing. That is going to go blank for a split second. Now we're back. All right. Enough of me wasting time. Let's get into it. Let's start right off. You might as well start off with our tribal chief, who, believe it or not, there was a time when he was the absolute undisputed future of the company, and he still may very well be, but he's just not a youngster anymore. He's just not like 27 anymore like he seemed to be for about forever. No. Roman Reigns has hit the ripe old age of 40. And it kind of fits him, to be honest with you. Roman Reigns kind of has like dad vibes out the wazoo. But let's be honest. If you are a wrestling company, you would do anything and you would pay any amount of money to have Roman Reigns. He may only wrestle like 5 or 6 matches a year, and they may not have given him a story for about 2 years, which just means he's preserved. He's actually fresh. We're going to say he's actually in his wrestling prime, and he's going to go right up there as the S tier level. Not really that big of a shock. Next up, let's take Sheamus. Now, Sheamus feels old, doesn't he? I mean, he's in his late 40s. He's been around forever. That's the thing that feels so old about Sheamus. So some of these guys, you're going to be surprised at how old they actually are, or you're shocked at how old they actually are because they're very new or relatively new on the national stage. Sheamus has been in our lives since like 08, 09. And right now, if we're being completely honest, at the age of 47, he looks good for a 47-year-old, but not necessarily good for a pro wrestler. And yes, he may still win the Intercontinental title. Yes, he may have a great match every now and then. But let's be honest, he's very overqualified for this role. But right now, he's C tier. He's a respected gatekeeper. Moving on. Let's go with the person that's... I had to look up CM Punk's age a minute ago. So that's what's going on there. Accidental click. I am sorry. Let's do CM Punk then, being that you just saw that I had to Google his age, and he is 47. CM Punk is 47, and CM Punk feels 47 right about now. As we saw a couple Mondays ago on Raw, the guy can still have a really good match, It's just a little bit difficult when he gets matched up with other more seasoned performers. Just look at him and AJ when they faced off a few months ago. Both still have great matches with other people, but it looked like they kind of canceled each other out. And in terms of what he can give going forward, I'm sure you're going to have a few more years with a few more big matches, but not many more. I mean, the guy's almost 50 years old. How much longer is he really going to keep at it? Then again, it sounds like they're paying him pretty well. I'm going to say at this point with Punk, he's A tier right now. I'm sure he would like to be in Heyman's tier of accentuating the positives, hiding some of the negatives. You know, some of the top rope maneuvers, which have never been the strong point for Punk, they need to be toned down just a little bit. All right. Let's go with some Usos. Let's start out with Jimmy Uso. You know, Jimmy Uso is very successful right now, a title holder. But his role in WWE seems to be to connect Jey Uso storylines together, to be sort of a constant thread in those storylines. With that said, I'm going to put Jimmy, as our respected gatekeeper. Next up, let's go Jey for real. Now, Jey obviously has had a lot more success in recent years than Jimmy. He's been one of the most over guys on Raw. He commands the arena with his chants. He tapped out Gunther at WrestleMania. Hasn't really done a whole lot since, and they seemingly are building an angle around his meltdown, but he's still in the mix. And he's another guy that I would say isn't perfect, and his time as champion, I think, exposed him in the eyes of some people, or at least reinforced what they had already thought. With all of that said, he's still very valuable, and there's not a lot about him that really reeks of over 40 at this point, and he's just barely there. So I'm going to put him in the accentuating the positives, hiding the negatives. A little bit of smoke and mirrors. All right. Next up, let's just do this now. JC Mateo. Do I even need to explain? I know he only debuted like a year ago, but you do have to look to see if he's still with the company, right? And I really, really hope they're paying him well. Because it just feels like, as viewers, we would get so much more out of him if he worked for literally any other wrestling company. Hope he's cashing those checks. Hope they're good. All right. Let's go with... This one's going to pain me, but I'm going to go here anyway because I like this performer. And I think that a lot of wrestling companies have wanted to invest in this performer until they're actually working with this performer. For whatever reason, that doesn't seem to go as well. And no, Andrade is not on this list because I think he's with AEW now, but that could change any minute. We've seen he's the most flip-floppy guy. Is he like the Jeff Jarrett of this war? Maybe. I'm going to go with Rusev, the man formerly known as Miro. Now, where are we going to put Rusev? Because he doesn't feel like one of these ancient guys, but he also kind of feels like a WWE nostalgic act in some ways. And there was a lot of hype with him coming back to the company, and maybe they could reset his career, but he's kind of having the same exact career that he was having with AEW. So I'm going to say he's actually been relegated to gatekeeper mode. And if he ever wants to leave again, I don't know where he would go. But I feel like there is a spot in wrestling somewhere for this guy. Somewhere where he can be happy. Somewhere where the booking can fit him. And all the talent that everyone knows is there can actually be exploited. Eric and Ivar are both in their 40s. They are recent champions, but they do not have much significance. But they're also not really respected gatekeepers either. So they're kind of in a no man's land. I'm actually going to put both of them. And this is unfortunate because they're probably on TV more than this connotation, but they both get the kind of he's still with the company rap on them. Sorry, Viking, Raiders, War, Experience, whatever you guys are. Them's the breaks. Also, I believe a title holder of some sort, or at least he's got a belt with him, but Dexter Lumis goes into the D tier as well. Probably could have carved out one more tier, honestly. There's a few of these guys that fit into a better tier. Those are some of the bottom names. Let's go back to some main eventers. How about Randall Keith Orton? I said a couple weeks ago, I'm pretty sure at this point, Randy is nothing but returns. Like, his value to the company is for a return and an RKO. Like, if I was WWE, I would constantly book him in injury angles just to have the big returns. And he's probably going to be challenging for a title a little later in the year. This might seem dumb to people, and I get that. But there's nothing old about Randy Orton other than his age. And he's been in our lives for like 1,000 years. He's kind of got the LeBron thing where we met him as a person that was so young that it's now become he's like the person we've known the longest and we've lived with the longest. So he seems maybe even older than he actually is. Guy's still in his mid-40s, which puts him right in the prime of this list. But other than his veteran status and the way they like to use him and his injuries that do creep up, it's nothing new. It's not like he wasn't getting injured in his 20s. In fact, he was getting injured just as much. With that said, there's no really negatives to him as a pro wrestler right now that correlate to his age. So I'm going to say he's still in his wrestling prime. Look at those second generation guys crowding out the top. Poor Punk has no nepotism of those four to squeak in. Up next, I'm going to go with... Oh, this one's going to kill me. This one's going to kill me because it was on display last night, and I think it's going to drive further discourse in the next couple of weeks. But if we're being honest, Finn Balor is a glorified, very, very shiny gatekeeper at this point. A gatekeeper who's going to main event next week. And that's fine. And I'm sure he's going to have a great match. And I'm sure it's going to lead to a lot more discourse about how he should be pushed and about what's happened to him in his career. With all that said, right now, he's a respected gatekeeper. I get these notifications for like dumb crap on my watch. I feel like they know if I'm like on the phone. Obviously, I don't on the phone, but like if I'm streaming, if I'm doing anything where I don't want to divert my attention there, it just buzz, buzz, buzz. Drives me nuts. All right, we're cruising here. I'm happy that Eric Rowan is with the company. I hope he's making a ton of money. And I honestly just feel for the guy that his run on national TV for 2 years was showing up on wrestling shows after his friends had passed away. That is just a crappy place to be. And it's not like he was treated the best during his WWE career, despite, I always thought, being very effective in his role. I kind of forget that Eric Rowan is with the company, and so he's going to hang out down with the JTG section. Remember JTG, where he just like didn't get cut after cut after cut after cut? Finally, he picked up his phone. Biggest regret of his life. Okay. We're seeing something, and I think there's probably a better explanation for the B tier. Maybe B and A tier could have been a little more combined in this, but I do have some coming up that are going to fit that mold. Another one that pains me, but I think the profile is similar to Miro. At this point, he's not being used quite as a gatekeeper, but he's not being used in any significance on the card. He's 40 years old. Aleister Black filling out our C tier. Almost down to one row of over 40s. And you're probably wondering why there's a female on that list. No, I'm not doing it to be mean. I will explain later. Let's liven it up a little bit. Let's liven it up with a champ, Drew McIntyre. No, he doesn't still got it in small doses. Here's another guy, kind of similar to Orton. Now, we haven't known him quite as long, but in proportion, it's actually very similar. We met him in his early 20s. Same time we met Randy Orton. Similar to Randy Orton, sort of crowned as this chosen one, literally by Vince McMahon. And then spent almost 10 years undoing that moniker to spend the next 10 years reestablishing himself. And now he's back at the tippy top of the mountain. He holds the title right now. Maybe a transitional champion, remains to be seen. Regardless, he holds the title that only like Cody and Roman are allowed to hold. You know, like the one that The Rock cares about, that's the title he holds. There's no ambiguity here. Drew is in his wrestling prime. Drew should have 10 more years at the top if the booking hasn't quite got to him. Okay, let me put this one in there. Let me put someone in the B tier. And this is going to be a controversial one because this person is very controversial for many reasons. I'm going to put Brock Lesnar in the B tier, in the you still got it in small doses. Now, nothing I have seen from Brock Lesnar in the very limited time we've seen him in the last year has indicated to me that he's declined any bit from where he was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, before this last hiatus for whatever they're going to claim he was gone for. He doesn't look significantly declined from there. And he's still in his physical form of where he was right before he had to take his little vacation. But let's face it, he is nothing but small doses. Like, I don't even know if that feud with Cena actually happened. I have no idea. I don't know if he was at Survivor Series. No idea. There's Roman Reigns part-time, where he controls the whole company, even in his absence. Then there's Brock Lesnar part-time, where you just fall off the face of the earth and we forget about you when you're not on TV. And a lot of us would like to forget about you anyway, Brock. So that's why you're going to be in B tier. Because right now, we're just dealing with you in small doses. I say all that. Brock's probably going to be pretty important to WrestleMania this year. Whatever Haas he faces, and if that Haas can beat him, that Haas is going to be really over. So I got Oba and Gunther and Braun Breaker in some kind of like shoot triple threat to get the Brock match. Because I haven't decided who they should put there. And I'm sure they're going to listen to me. Yeah, streamer guy. They're going to listen to you on that. All right, one row. They're on TV a lot. I really wish this was New Japan that I was talking about them in the context of, but we know Bullet Club is kind of dead. We'll put the Tongans down here. Yeah, they're on TV a lot, but I mean, they're with the MFTs. Speaking of the MFTs, I'm kind of worried the Vision is going to fall into like the non-Braun Breaker Vision. It kind of feels like MFT is like part of this bigger storyline, but pieces of it that's going to be fairly less significant. Like they might even be the new Nexus, which isn't great. I mean, it's better than being the core. You don't want them to be the core. But maybe like Nexus is like the Seth version. Maybe new Nexus is, or yeah, that's like the Nexus, the full Nexus. New Nexus is like the Braun Breaker version. Wade Barrett can tell you how well that went. And then the core. The core is like Bronson, Logan, and Austin. And Paul Heyman like incompetently leading them to wherever it is they're going to go. Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, Shinsuke, again, it pains me to say, really wish he was at Wrestle Kingdom. He's a gatekeeper at this point. Very, very good gatekeeper. And I want to point that out. But everyone on that gatekeeper tier, those are all very valuable members of the roster. You need those people, and you need their name. You need to get pins off their name in some instance. So what do we do with R-Truth? I'm going to say R-Truth goes in the he's still with the company thing, because I think he's only with the company because people complain about him not being with the company. And I'm sure we're gonna get some skewed explanation on Unreal next week. Aren't we all looking forward to that? No, he goes down there. Akira Tozawa. I think the role of Tozawa these days is to stand in the back of Maxine Dupri's promos. Now we're getting to our tough decisions. Let me wipe out a few. He's still with the company. It's not Saban and Shelley's fault that the tag division on SmackDown is loaded with talent and booked whenever, wherever. I actually missed one of the Motor City Machine Guns. So Chris Sabin represents both of them. We'll also put Tommaso Ciampa in that category because he's almost not with the company anymore. So he goes in there. Now, for those of you watching, look at my screen of over 40s and tell me where you would put these guys. AJ Styles, Cody Rhodes, Damian Priest, Kevin Owens, Kofi Kingston, L.A. Knight, Penta, Rey Mysterio, The Miz, and Chelsea Green. No, Chelsea Green's not a man over 40. Her husband just happens to be, and his image isn't on the roster page on WWE.com yet. Thankfully for all of us, Chelsea's picture is. Where would we put Cardona? We don't know yet. Cardona's undetermined. So I'm just going to put him in B tier because B tier is looking a little sly. I'm going to keep her away from him for sure. But I actually think that might be a place that Cardona ends up. Because I think Cardona is there for a little more than being just the respected gatekeeper. Of course, that's probably going to be the momentum that creative wants him to fulfill. So in doing that, he's going to have to thread the line of being the gatekeeper, of being the person that people are going to rely on to get victories off of, but also being able to still go. And also being able to, when called upon, to be in a secondary or maybe even a world title program. And I think that's the you still got it in small doses. That's where they revolve. Toughest decision on this, I think, is Kofi Kingston. I would say Kingston can go any tier on this list, and it would actually make sense. The New Day are not necessarily used as jobbers, but they're not necessarily used as a focus of the division. Their name is used. Their split was squandered. None of that really falls on Kofi, but a lot of this doesn't fall on the competitors. I'm going to say Kofi still has it in small doses because we still get little bits of the New Day and we still get little bits of what they were supposed to be as a heel. You know how they had no plan for the big John Cena heel turn? That's not the only big heel turn it seems like they didn't have a plan for. They also seemingly didn't have a plan for the New Day heel turn. We're not going to talk about that. No one's ever broke that down, but that should probably be brought up. All right. We'll go, as it pertains to my screen, right to left. First up, The Miz. Now, The Miz, I think, still has it for sure, as much as he ever had it. He's just simply been passed over by time in that way. And I think we're seeing newer versions of The Miz. The Miz is still a very, very important character on that show. He's doing a great job of getting RKO'd by Randy every week. He's the guy that you need in there with the new guys. He's the guy in there with celebrities. He's the guy at the front, even ahead of Sheamus, of our respected gatekeepers. Rey Mysterio. Rey's having an underrated old man run, I think, right now in WWE. Like LeBron James can learn how to bring on your son and transition over to him from what Rey Mysterio's role is right now. Like there is never a time that I watch Rey and I think of him as being ancient, other than I know that it's fact. Other than I think he's still the only really active member of the WCW roster that is still around and can still go, can sell tickets, can get over, can have interesting matches. They're not really hiding his weaknesses and accentuating his positives, and he's not always focused on. And I think the focus for him seems to be on getting Dom over, which he's done an excellent job at. Credit to Dom, credit to Rhea, credit to Liv, and credit to the creative on that as well. I'm going to say he fills out perfectly in our You Still Got It in small doses. Because if you need sympathy, I think he's one of the first people you'll have attacked by the monster heel. They don't do it that often, and I'm glad they don't, because they kind of got in the habit of that previously of making him look pathetic, but definitely has it in small doses. Penta's a hard case. I think they view Penta as a respected gatekeeper. And he hasn't lost it. And maybe the doses are a little bit too small for Penta. That's kind of the problem. Yep, it's crowded, but I'm going to say Penta is also another respected gatekeeper. Next, we have LA Knight. Someone that can't, LA Knight to me has always been interesting because when he came into WWE as a non NXT guy, he always seemed so much older than the rest of the roster in just his appearance and his demeanor, and even his style was a little more of a throwback. He's right in the age range as most of these guys, but unlike most of these guys are from a prior era. He's one of the few guys that right now is the era that he's supposed to be in his prime. And he's not used as a gatekeeper. Despite the fact that he never wins the big matches, he's not a gatekeeper. And I don't think he still has it in small doses. I think he's very much a workhorse. Accentuating the positives, hiding the weaknesses, they're not doing that. I'm actually going to say, and this may be crazy, he's 100% in his wrestling prime. Not pushed as such, but used at the top of the card to get other people over and use effectively at the top of the card and could be your champion tomorrow if you wanted to. So yes, LA Knight goes ahead of CM Punk, but I think if you're paying attention, that actually makes sense. Kevin Owens, someone who's out right now with injury, just slightly over 40, and someone who takes a lot of risks in his match. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he ages. We will put him in his wrestling prime. The only thing that could detract from that it would be if he's so beaten up. Another argument could be that people have run the cycle with him, but I think there's still a lot of meat on that bone. Another name I'm noticing wasn't on here for whatever reason was Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn, I would say, also could go into any of these top 3 tiers, probably in the wrestling prime as well. Problem with that is his moment may have already passed. He may get the title next year, but his moment of his wrestling prime may have already passed. So he straddles the line between in his wrestling prime, and I would say actually really, really, really respected gatekeeper. So maybe it's a good thing that he wasn't quite used on this list. Next up, Damian Priest. Damian Priest has been given a lot of chances. Unfortunately, I wouldn't say he hasn't taken advantage of them, but it just kind of hasn't worked out the way that everyone probably thought it should work out. He's great in this role, but I think he's only great right now in this role, in the role of a respected gatekeeper. And then there were two. Got this match last year or 2 years ago post WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes 100,000% in his wrestling prime, despite being age 40. And in fact, unlike a lot of other wrestlers, I think in his position, there's still a lot more for him to do. I think there's a whole decade of heel run he can get out of this. It may go down that Cody is the best heel of his generation. I mean, it's the case with Roman Reigns, and he was one of the most pushed baby faces ever. The same can absolutely be said for Cody. Also, from a main event perspective, we may be a little bit tired of him right now in the same old, same old. We got reports this morning there's going to be a major character change coming. I don't know about all that. With that said, he's only been in WWE back for a couple of years and has mostly been at the top, which means there's still a whole lot for him to do. And for that purpose, I'm going to say he's right at the top of our list, kind of in his prime. What do we do with our final one on here? The one who just main evented last night, seemingly on a retirement tour, been hidden in tags a little bit, but is going to go full on for his last year. Alan Jones Styles, AJ Styles. AJ is going to go where CM Punk and Jey Uso go, accentuating the positives, hiding the weaknesses. There is some slowness to AJ that you see every now and then. And if you watch his matches from even a couple of years ago, it's just a step slower. I think it's pretty unrecognizable to the naked eye, and you have to look for it to find it. But once you see it, it is there. There is some decline that he has. I mean, it makes sense. The guy's almost freaking 50 years old, and with the style he has wrestled, that's very impressive. And the way he's been able to take care of his body, also equally impressive. No one would argue that he's in his wrestling prime, nor would you sign him right now. But I think he's a little bit better than still having it in small doses, even if that's how mostly they're going to use him going forward. And there it was. That was most of the roster that's over 40, most of the men's roster over 40, and where they rank. What do you guys think of the list? How would you alter this list? If you look at the breakdown of how I had it, in my opinion, I think it's actually telling that it's this reverse bell curve. I don't think having 4, 5, 6, 7, even if you put in some of the A-tier guys, that many guys over 40 in your main event scene means that your promotion's in the toilet. It probably could actually mean you have a really good promotion. It could actually mean that everything is clicking, everyone is in their prime, everyone is seasoned. But what's also concerning is the other big area is at the or I should say, what's also interesting is that the other glut of talent is at the very, very bottom tiers as gatekeepers or guys that we barely see on TV. Which makes me think a couple of things. One, there's a lot of spots on this roster that's clogged up by guys that don't have a lot of future, but have some cachet with the audience. And we've seen in wrestling when there's like a generation gap, it doesn't always go so well. The problem is, I think that there's a lot less people in this creamy middle. There's nothing wrong with having so many of these old guys, but it's in how you use them and how they're showcased. And as we can see, the old guys, I think, are just the regular stalwarts, or they're there to fill out the roster. Do you think, what's your opinion? Does WWE need a youth movement? And I should be clear, it's not just WWE. There's plenty of older competitors right now in New Japan, TNA, and AEW. WWE right now, though, feels particularly seasoned. There we go. Love when you get an email that says good morning, and it's locally it's 6:22 here, 8:22 Eastern. Have no idea what this person who just sent me this good morning email. Sure, it's a legit email. Probably not a scam, right? Probably. Where is my chat at? There we go. There's that super active chat. Watch that. What do we got? There. Now the chat's active. Now we're happy. Now we're all feeling good. Hope you enjoyed this tier ranking. I will talk to all you guys next week.